Ryan Reynolds is reportedly running into turbulence over his rumored cameo in Avengers. Doomsday, and if the chatter circulating online holds up, this might be one of the messier behind-the-scenes stories of his career. According to fan speculation and entertainment commentary spreading across TikTok and Reddit, several of Marvel's veteran stars are not exactly rolling out the welcome mat for him, and people online say his track record is exactly why. The MCU is in a transition phase right now. The actors who built this franchise from the ground up carry a certain amount of influence, and by most accounts, a real sense of ownership over the stories they helped bring to life. They spent years on press tours, years building characters people actually cared about, years forming a relationship with a fan base that shows up for them every time. So when word started circulating that Ryan was pushing his way into Avengers, Doomsday, and reportedly asking for a hefty payday for what would amount to a brief cameo, the response from some of the veteran cast was allegedly less than warm. If the rumors are accurate, that pushback reads as a pretty public snub, one that shows how far outside the inner circle Ryan may actually be. He appears to have assumed that bringing Deadpool into the Disney fold would automatically hand him a seat at the head of the table, that the old guard would simply make room and let him turn their movie into free advertising for his own name.
But I think after he got super famous from the first Deadpool, then things kind of changed. I think he was like, see, you guys see. And then I think I don't know. I mean, would I work with him again?
Online chatter suggests several cast members have been trying to keep their distance, while reportedly pushing to keep his screen time as limited as possible. The logic, according to fans discussing it online, is simple. Putting him into a heavy, dramatic moment purely so he can land a punchline and cash a huge paycheck adds nothing to the story and might actually hurt the finished product. It's worth remembering that Doomsday is being framed as one of the most consequential Avengers films in years, tasked with tying together multiple corners of the Marvel and X-Men timelines while introducing a new central villain. That's exactly the kind of project where longtime cast members would reportedly want tight creative control, not a scene-stealing cameo built around one-liners aimed at the fourth wall. A film with that much writing on it doesn't leave a lot of room for a joke that exists mainly to remind audiences a certain actor is in the building. People who've worked with him say they've seen this pattern before, and apparently producers have picked up on it too. To really understand why the industry might be cooling on Ryan Reynolds, it helps to look at an actor who built his career on more or less the opposite values. And that actor is Cillian Murphy. Cillian Murphy doesn't treat acting like a stepping stone to a business empire. He treats it like a craft. From Thomas Shelby in Peaky Blinders to his Oscar-winning turn in Oppenheimer, he fully immerses himself in the work. He's known for taking on roles that demand serious preparation, not for phoning it in with a wink at the camera. While Ryan has largely walked away from smaller independent projects since Mississippi Grind underperformed, Murphy keeps showing up for tiny, low-budget films purely out of respect for the people making them. One example people point to online, Murphy starred in a short independent film called The Water, alongside musician Feist, directed by Kevin Drew, and reportedly signed on before he'd even read a script. He trusted the vision and the scrappy, do-it-together spirit of the project, and that was reason enough for him. He's talked about missing an era when people made things together out of mutual respect without worrying about the commercial upside first. Murphy has joked that he's really a rock star at heart who never got the band together, and that acting became the outlet instead. And he treats the connection with his audience as something earned through the work itself, not manufactured through a marketing calendar. Before Oppenheimer made him a household name outside of Peaky Blinders fans, Murphy spent years building a reputation as a director's actor, someone filmmakers trusted with difficult material, precisely because he wasn't chasing a bigger paycheck or a franchise slot. He worked repeatedly with Christopher Nolan on smaller supporting roles across Inception, Dunkirk, and the Dark Knight trilogy, long before Oppenheimer handed him a lead. That kind of loyalty to a working relationship, rather than to whichever project pays the most, is part of what people online point to when they draw the contrast with how Ryan tends to operate. That's the real difference between these two men, the way each of them approaches the commercial machinery around the job. Ryan treats nearly every press tour as an opportunity to sell something, whether it's gin, a phone plan, or a product tied to his wife. He's constantly visible. Murphy, by contrast, has been openly critical of the modern press tour, reportedly calling it a broken model because everyone involved ends up bored out of their minds, sitting in hotel rooms for days fielding the same questions in search of one viral soundbite. That's not Murphy complaining about having a job he's grateful for. It's a critique of a system that rewards cheap viral moments over actual conversations about the work. He doesn't run a social media presence pushing sponsored products, and when he wins something as major as an Oscar, he stays visibly humble about it. He's said the recognition is nice, but it's not why he does this. Circling back to the Avengers situation, it helps to remember how Ryan built his early brand. Back when the first Deadpool launched, he built his whole persona around poking fun at the very kind of franchise filmmaking that critics now say he's angling to cash in on. The veteran Marvel cast, protective of what they've built, reportedly aren't convinced that an expensive, minimal cameo brings anything fresh to the table. If the reports about him demanding top dollar for limited screen time are true, that alone signals to his peers where his priorities sit. There's also the broader superhero fatigue conversation. People like Steven Spielberg have warned for years that the genre risks a real backlash from overexposure and formulaic sequels, and online commentary frequently points to Ryan as close to the face of that overexposure. The anxiety said to be surrounding this Avengers situation lines up pretty neatly with what's actually happening to his numbers lately. Take IF, his most recent starring vehicle. It was supposed to be a 4-quadrant hit that spawned its own franchise, produced by John Krasinski and Ryan Reynolds, with both of their companies holding first-look deals at Paramount. Paramount reportedly outbid Lionsgate and Sony for the rights, expecting a big return. The film carried a production budget of $110 million. And in the current movie business, a film generally needs to clear roughly double its budget just to break even once marketing and theater splits are factored in. That put the real target somewhere in the $220 to $300 million range once the full marketing spend was factored in. It didn't get there. If grossed about $190.3 million globally, doing okay domestically, but landing flat internationally. Critics weren't kind either, with the film settling at just over 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. Audiences online called the concept messy and the humor flat. Industry commentary also pointed out that Paramount released it in May, right against Garfield and Furiosa, both of which outperformed it easily. The takeaway a lot of people online drew from this: his star power alone might not be enough anymore to carry a 9-figure budget, which is a serious issue for someone whose whole career rests on being able to open a movie. What made the underperformance sting even more, according to entertainment reporting at the time, is that IF wasn't positioned as a risky passion project. It had a recognizable, family-friendly hook, a release date built for the summer season, and 2 producers with first-look studio deals backing it. On paper, it had every advantage a mid-budget original film could ask for. When a film with that level of institutional support still can't clear its break-even point, that tends to get noticed by studio executives who greenlight the next project and by the agents negotiating an actor's next quote. To understand how we got here, it helps to look back to 2015 and Mississippi Grind, an independent drama he made with Ben Mendelsohn, directed by Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck. It followed 2 down-on-their-luck gamblers chasing one last big score, and critically, it landed, pulling a 91% certified fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes, with plenty of praise for Ryan's performance. It looked like his breakout into serious acting. Financially, though, it was a disaster. Made on a $7.1 million budget, the film brought in a fraction of that at the box office. That failure appears to have reshaped his entire approach to the business. From that point on, he leaned hard into big paycheck franchise and brand work, and to a lot of fans watching from the outside, it started to look like the paycheck had become the priority over the craft. That pursuit of easy money runs parallel to another rough stretch: the fallout tied to his wife, Blake Lively, and the production of It Ends With Us, which reportedly exposed some uncomfortable patterns and added extra strain to the family's public image. There were already warning signs before that, according to entertainment reporting and online discussion, including friction during promotional obligations and moments that struck people as tone-deaf. Some of the earliest signs of Ryan's own reputation for friction reportedly trace back to Blade, Trinity, where tension with co-star Wesley Snipes became public. Snipes reportedly refused to interact with him normally on set and wouldn't call him by name, and their professional relationship broke down in a very visible way. Whatever specifically was said, the takeaway people online draw from it is that Ryan's constant ad-libbing and joking around rubbed a serious, method-driven actor the wrong way, and that friction has apparently followed him onto other sets since. Snipes has been described elsewhere as an intensely committed, old-school performer, and the gap between his approach and Ryan's comedic, constantly in-character breaking style has often been cited online as the root of the tension rather than anything more personal. TJ Miller, who played Weasel in the first 2 Deadpool films, has spoken publicly about his own rocky experience working with Ryan.
He had a really weird moment on Deadpool where he said, let's do one more take. And everyone was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And then as the character, he was like horrifically mean to me, but to me, as if I'm Weasel.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So he was like, what's great about you, Weasel? You're not the star, but you just, you do just enough exposition that it's funny. And then we can leave and get back to the real.
Miller has said that before the first Deadpool became a hit, Ryan was just a regular coworker, but that his attitude shifted once the film's success gave him more leverage. Miller described the environment as unpleasant enough that he said he wouldn't work with Ryan again, though he later noted that Ryan got in touch with him once those comments started circulating publicly. Stories like this, along with the more recent friction tied to Justin Baldoni, have fed a broader perception online that Ryan tends to punch down at smaller names while staying deferential toward people at the very top of the industry. TJ Miller isn't the only name that's come up in these conversations. Fans online have also revisited older interview clips and set stories involving other collaborators, piecing together a broader narrative. One that reads to a lot of viewers as someone who treats collaborators differently depending on how useful they seem to be at any given moment, though that's very much an interpretation rather than anything confirmed. That pattern is part of why the Justin Baldoni situation landed the way it did for a lot of viewers, since it seemed to echo complaints people had already heard secondhand for years, just now playing out in public with legal stakes attached. Whether or not the Avengers cast situation is accurate in every detail, it fits a pattern people online say they've noticed. A worry that letting him onto a set means dealing with someone who, in their read, would turn the exposure toward himself, court the press for attention, and push for changes that center his own screen time. The contrast with Murphy shows up even in how each man presents himself. Ryan tends to dress for maximum attention, always camera ready, always positioned for a viral moment, because for him, nearly every appearance doubles as a marketing opportunity. Murphy's off-camera style is the opposite. Understated, well-tailored, built around quality over logos. On the red carpet, he leans on classic European tailoring from names like Prada, Saint Laurent, and Alexander McQueen. His Oscars look, a charcoal wool suit with a satin peak lapel, got attention for exactly that kind of restraint. Murphy has built an entire career, an Oscar included, without needing a viral ad campaign to stay relevant. And that comparison is part of why so much of the online conversation frames Ryan's approach as increasingly desperate by contrast. That framing connects to a larger shift in how people talk about Ryan these days. Marketing teams have leaned hard on keeping him in front of audiences constantly, but that strategy appears to be backfiring. People are tired of the nonstop Mint Mobile ads, the endless Disney Plus cross-promotion, the wall-to-wall Wrexham coverage. At a certain point, Constant visibility stops working in someone's favor and starts working against them. And that's roughly where a lot of online commentary places Ryan right now. That fatigue was already building before the "It Ends With Us" controversy. And once his text messages and other details became part of the public conversation, people largely weren't in a defending mood. His publicity team has reportedly tried to steer things back toward the familiar, funny guy image that worked for years, but a lot of that effort is landing as forced rather than charming. The public read on him has shifted from lovably self-aware to overexposed and image-obsessed, and once that shift happens, the same confidence that used to read as charm starts reading as arrogance instead. Search interest and social sentiment trackers, the kind entertainment outlets have cited in recent coverage, have reportedly shown a measurable dip in favorability around Ryan's name since the "It Ends With Us" press cycle. And commentators have pointed out that his usual playbook, leaning into self-deprecating humor and a flurry of brand tie-ins, doesn't work the same way when the audience's issue is with the volume of content itself, rather than its tone. You can't joke your way out of overexposure when the joke is just more exposure. That's what makes the Avengers rumors land the way they do. These wouldn't be random critics, they'd be established actors from inside the very franchise he's reportedly angling to gain more ground in. If people within his own professional circle are pulling back, that's a harder thing to spin than an annoyed internet comment section. His biggest asset has always been the ability to walk into a room, crack a joke, promote something, and come out ahead. If that's no longer landing the way it used to, that's a real shift. None of this means Ryan Reynolds is broke or irrelevant, but the bigger issue may be something money can't fix as easily: goodwill. If the reports about friction with the Avengers cast hold up, it might be a sign that constant visibility isn't the flex it used to be, and that showing up everywhere all the time eventually starts working against you instead of for you. There's also a generational angle worth considering. A lot of the actors reportedly uneasy about working with Ryan came up through a version of Hollywood where a franchise slot was earned through years of theater work, small supporting roles, and slow-built credibility. Ryan's path looked different from the start, built more on stand-up style charisma and marketing instinct than on traditional, dramatic training. And for years, that difference didn't matter because the box office results backed him up. Once the numbers stop backing him up, though, that same difference in background becomes a lot easier for skeptics inside the industry to point to. It also raises a bigger question about where the MCU goes from here. Marvel has leaned heavily on stunt casting and cameo culture over the last few years, packing films with surprise appearances designed to generate headlines and trailer reactions rather than to serve the story. If the reports about pushback from the veteran cast are accurate, it might suggest some of the people steering these films creatively are starting to push back on that approach altogether, prioritizing a tighter, more character-driven story over another round of viral cameo moments. Whether that shift actually happens, or whether Ryan's cameo shows up in the final cut anyway, remains to be seen. What do you think about the reported tension between Ryan and the Avengers cast and the comparison to how Cillian Murphy has built his career? Let us know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If this one kept you hooked, make sure to like the video and subscribe to Clout Fallout so you don't miss the next update on this story.